Alrighty, so well, it is halftime between Columbus and Puebla, and there is also one more game that is going on right now. It's NYCFC versus Leon, and barring some crazy collapse that we see in NYCFC late in the game, it seems like that's another game where MLS team is able to get the better over in Liga MX side. And I gotta say, ever since the opening night where that was such an embarrassment for MLS team when it comes to only winning one out of the five games that we saw, and Liga MX kind of had their dominance over MLS team, and it felt like maybe MLS team. It seems like they are going to falter this year's edition to the Leeds Cup, and Liga MX team. They mean business when it comes to them wanting revenge after not doing well in the first two edition. Well, these second and third day, and really looking at match day number one, it seems like MLS is once again flexing its muscle against Liga MX opponent. And I know, obviously, there's going to be that discussion of, well, this is not surprise considering Liga MX side had to play on the road. And, if you're playing this in American soil, of course, you're going to have MLS team dominate. And we will never know exactly what's going to happen if it actually is playing on Mexican soil. But still, it's kind of impressive to see the MLS team have not only bounced back well after that disastrous first night in the Leeds Cup, but in some cases, we saw a historic beatdown that happened in Seattle, and we'll definitely talk about this in a game that I don't think anyone saw this coming. But first of all, let us begin by talking about the first game, which is Cincinnati versus Rayados. And I gotta say, Rayados, they're always a team that is kind of a tricky team to play. These Northern Mexican side, they're always tricky to play. We know the might of Tigres and a team that always cause pain for MLS team. We saw it when they absolutely destroyed the Houston Dynamo on opening night. But Rayados can also cause some problem for MLS team in the past before, but that was not the case in this one in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is able to knock them off in this one, though it did get a little bit interesting late, and probably a game where again it feels like for Cincinnati they are doing this on purpose. The fact that yeah, it's not a Cincinnati game and it's not a Pat Nolan game if there is not a game where they win by 1 goal margin. That's like the Pat Nolan special. Now, in the first half, Evander would put it wide from long range as Cincinnati was on the front foot looking to get the opener. Ambriz would then put it right to Laurel. So Laura actually gets the starting this one instead of Salatano. First time we've seen the backup netminder for Cincinnati getting a game this season. They also came out of a bad turnover from Cincinnati. That's been a problem so far. This edition of the Leeds Cup, where MLS team has really struggled when it comes to facing against Liga MX's opponent in terms of dealing with the press. But the shots were only one apiece. 25 minutes in, Santos would then hits one right to Cardenas on the doorstep of goal. Yeah, that is one that Sergio Santos would want to have back. And not surprising that is the case because Sergio Santos is probably the last man Cincinnati wants to fall on when it comes to the goal scoring because he is definitely not a guy that has been scoring a lot of goals for Cincinnati lately. Our Cardenas then denied Evander from close, but then in the 31st minute, Evander would get on the score sheet. He scored from Valenzuela to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati, and you just kind of sensed that was coming. I mean, they would put some pressure against this Rioto side, and eventually the pressure paid off. And why not have your most influenced attacker scoring the opening goal in this game? Buka would then look for another, but his shot was clear off the line, and then Santos would just miss an absolute sitter again on the front post. Again, Sergio Santos, he's not allowed to score a goal, and there's a reason why he doesn't get a lot of minutes for the Cincinnati side. But I also thought that will these missed chances come back to haunt Cincinnati? Because if there's one thing we know about MLS team when they face against Liga MX side, they usually don't hold on to leads, and that they squander those opportunity and it come back to haunt them. And guess what? Monterey kind of read that and saw that. Yep, it definitely did come back to haunt Cincinnati because in the 45th minute, Sergio Canales would score to make it 1-1 in this one. It did take a deflection though, so a little unfortunate in Cincinnati perspective. But what's not unfortunate is the woeful defending from Cincinnati. I mean, Canales basically went beast mode there, just not great defending whatsoever from Cincinnati to stop him from going beast mode, and just like that, it's 1-1 heading into the second half. Now in the second half, he actually shook the post from the near post in the 49th minute, so that would have been an absolute backbreaker for Cincinnati, not only conceding right on the stroke of halftime, but also conceding in the beginning of the second half. But instead, Cincinnati does get one or get the lead back, albeit in a very controversial way, because Lucas Orellano would score from Evander to make it 2-1. Originally, this goal was disallowed for offside, and I gotta say, when I look on the VAR a couple of times, I mean, some might say that there could be a case where maybe the grass wasn't the lines of the grass or the cut of the grass isn't completely even, and that's why they decided to overrule this call. But the more I look at it, I mean, I tell you what, I think Orellana was kind of leaning in an offside position. I was really surprised that they decided to overturn that, and I know Riotos fans are going to be absolutely fuming about this, and rightfully so, because yeah, if this was against an MLS team, I would have just said that, yep, here we go again. It seems like we're once again seeing MLS team getting screwed over by Liga MX side, and it's kind of interesting that throughout this tournament, MLS team has actually have been getting more favorable calls than Liga MX side. This is kind of almost the complete opposite of what I usually see with CONCACAF Champions Cup competition, but nevertheless, the goal, of course, was given, albeit it was very controversial, and Cincinnati wouldn't care. They were leading 2-1. Aguirre did look to answer, but he hits it right to Lauro. Despite Rayados had a lot of the possession, Cincinnati still looked pretty comfortable in terms of sitting back for the most part. Most of that is because Rayados weren't really having too much success in terms of breaking down a very resolute Cincinnati back line. Corona would then hit it wide from close before Cardenas would deny Evander on the free kick. But then in the 90th minute, Pavel Buka looked like he turns the lights out in this one. So he scored here from Evander to put this one looked like all in doubt to make it 3-1. He did also look for another to try to make it 4-1, but he missed one in the second minute of stoppage time. But then in the fifth minute of stoppage time, Rayados make it interesting late in this game. I almost said even more interesting. I mean, in some way, they kind of made it even more interesting late in this one. And who else but Herman Betarame, a guy that he loves scoring against MLS team in Liga MX. And he had a hat trick in one of the game last season in the Leeds Cup. Yeah, he scored from Mexico to make it 3-2 in this one. We are pretty much not done in this one. And again, if you're a Cincinnati fans, yeah, you're probably getting PTSD because you know the two goal leads. This has been a thing that we have seen before, especially with MLS team this season. Of course, blowing it late in the game. Ramos would then hits it wide from close in the 8th minute stoppage time, and I think the only good news if you're a Cincinnati fan is that at least they conceded really late in this one, where it's gonna take an absolute epic collapse for Cincinnati to lose the lead in this one, but ultimately they do win this one 3-2 in this game as the shots in this one 13 shots compared to 11 that Riotos had, 6 shots on goal compared to 5 that Riotos had. Both team had 2 shots off target. Both team had 3 shots that was blocked. Possession wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Riotos has in this game. So yeah, definitely one of the tougher team that Cincinnati has played in terms of this phase one, and they pass it with flying color. And this is another team that is going to definitely be in contention to try to get one of those top four spot. It is really hard to try to get those top four spot to move on. I mean, out of 18 teams, we could have a sense that you really need to win all of your game, and especially win all of your games in regulation if you're able to move on into the next round. Especially now that MLS team is doing better against Liga MX opponent. I mean, that first night, this is where if you play in the first night, if you're an MLS team losing those games, now you are really behind the 8 ball to a point where it seems like there is kind of almost no coming back with the way that you really have to be almost perfect now that there's really no room for error in terms of being one of the top 14 to advance into the next round of the tournament, and vice versa for Liga MX. I mean, I know in the beginning Liga MX team might be worried that all their fellow Liga MX companion also are winning games and it feels like there's no room for error, but now seeing some of these Liga MX team kind of dropping down like flies against MLS team, maybe it doesn't need to take 9 points to move on into the next round. Maybe six might be enough in terms of that. Either way, that's kind of the criticism in terms of this format, where it's kind of a very strange format to a point where it definitely created a little bit of an unbalance that we see when it comes to phase one of this tournament. But anyway, moving on into the next one, we got Chivas versus the New York Red Bulls, and this game looked like it was deemed to head to a PK shot. It looked like it was going to end in a scoreless draw, but then some Emo Frostberg magic happened late in this one to walk it off for the Red Bulls. Now in the first 15 minutes, yeah, it was an absolute snooze fest. Not much happened in the first 15 minutes. In fact, the first shot of the game, see Stroud puts it wide from close before Marcucci would deny Ledesma on the header. So Marcucci, another player that hasn't got any minutes with the Red Bulls this season, finally getting his chance in this one in the Leeds Cup as Cornell gets a rest in this game. Romo would then miss wide from close. The shots were still two apiece. 35 minutes into this one, Sofo would then have a shot that was deflected and goes right to run hell before Polito would hits it right to Makuchi in the third man stoppage time. So Polito scored in this one. What a moment that would have been considered. He's been doing that for Sporting KC throughout his time in this MLS league. There's definitely a lot of familiar faces now in these Leagues Cup, especially with the way that there's been a lot of MLS versus MLS and Liga MX kind of transaction that we've seen in the last couple of transfer window. Gutierrez would then puts it wide from close, but we do head to halftime with this game scoreless at 0 apiece. In the second half, Ledesma would puts it wide from long range. Speaking of Ledesma, he's also a former FC Cincinnati player as well. Again, another very familiar name if you watch MLS for a while like I have. But just like the majority of the first half, Chivas had more of the possession. They had a couple of half chances and looked to try to get the lead. Hall would then hits it into the side netting before Sofo thought that he got the opening goal for the Red Bulls, but the goal was disallowed for offside. And really, that was the first time we'd seen the Red Bulls putting some sustained pressure in this one. They haven't really created too much chances up to that point. Though, as I said, that Makuchi would had to deny Alvarado from long range before Nealis would head to wide from close. Run on the other and with denied Sofo from close as this game seems like it's up for grabs. Both of these teams now were looking to try to get the opener. Rangel would then deny Chupomo team from close range, and then on the other end, Gonzalez would puts it wide from close, and you just kind of had a sense that despite the fact that both of these teams were getting some chances, maybe this is just going to be one of those games where neither of these teams couldn't finish. It looks like it's going to head to a PK shootout with a scoreless draw. However, in the 7 minute of stoppage time, literally the last kick of this game, Emo Frostberg would score on a walk-off free kick here. There was some confusion in terms of the Chivas wall, and I think Frostberg kind of saw that and he immediately took advantage of that as well. But nevertheless, what a big win it is for the New York Red Bulls. I mean, they didn't really create too many chances or too many dangerous chances, I would say, but that's why you have Emo Forsberg coming off the bench and making some magic for this New York Red Bull side. The shots in this one, 10 shots for the 8 that Chivas had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal. Both teams had 3 shots off target. 2 shots was blocked, the none that Chivas had. And possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that the Red Bulls had so far. By the way, Chivas, yeah, let's just say that they have not had fun so far in the Leeds Cup. But throughout the last two editions of the Leeds Cup, both time they got eliminated in the group stage, and with this resort coming through. I mean, that for a team that have almost a similar popularity as what we see with Club America, and the expectation that is certainly placed on this team as well. Yeah, not a great start for them in terms of their hope to finally turn things around after just these last two Leagues Cup. It's been nothing but misery for one of the most supported team in Mexico, and really one of the most supported team in North America in general, in Chivas Guadalajara. Now, moving on into the next match, and now let's talk about the absolute beatdown that we saw in Seattle in this one. And honestly, like I said, no one saw this coming. I mean, coming into this one, I thought it was going to be a competitive game as well. I mean, Cruz Azul, after all, they are the defending CONCACAF Champions Cup winner, and they are a team that is once again doing very well this season in the league. They did well last season as well, finishing third in the Clausura. But in this game, I mean, in the second half, what in the world happened to Cruz Azul? And also, what in the what happened to the Seattle Sounders? Because it looked like in the second half, the Seattle Sounders, I'm pretty sure they probably watched that CONCACAF Champions Cup final, and they're probably a little sad the fact that their Cascadia rival up north of the border kind of lost in a very bad way, and they basically said, "We got you back because we're going to give Cruz Azul a little taste of their own medicine in the second half," and it was more than just a little taste of their own medicine. It was just a game where it ended up to be just a historic beatdown and a half that I don't think I've seen an MLS team able to score that many goals in a single half, let alone in this game against Liga MX opponent. Now, in the first half, Vargas would hit it right to Minder before Rodon would put it wide from long range. There was, well, actually, the Sounders were on the front foot as they were pressing for the opener up to this point, and they looked like they got it in the 12th minute when Jesus Ferreira puts it into the back net. However, There was an offside on the development of play, so that goal, of course, was taking off. What's kind of interesting is that the 7 goals that Seattle scored in this one, if you add the offside goal, they technically scored 9 goals in this one. And Jesus Vera technically had a hat trick in this one if those goals would have been counted because if it wasn't for offside. The first shot for Cruz Azul, see Rivero puts it high from long range before Campos, which struck the post from long range, as Cruz Azul have kind of woke up to this point. I mean, the Sounders, again, they were the better team, at least in the first 12 minutes of this one. But as we know, when you're facing against a Liga MX team, and especially a good team that is Cruz Azul, and a team that just won the CONCACAF Champions Cup, yeah, you cannot let them hang around the game. You need to punish them if you're on top. Muswaski would then put it wide after a bad turnover from Cruz Azul before Faravela would hit it right to Thomas in the 37th minute. Campos would then miss wide from close range. I thought the Sounders would kind of start holding on a little bit. I mean, Cruz Azul was putting a lot of pressure late in the first half, and it's important the fact that they were able to hold to halftime 0-0 because, as we'll see in the second half, this is when the beatdown begins. So it started in the 48th minute when Yamar would score from Rusnak to make it 1-0 in favor of Seattle. That also came off of a corner as well. That is a rare corner that the Sounders were able to score. They're not a team that is known to score from set pieces, especially from the corner. So I guess maybe that's kind of explaining why this might be a special night for the Seattle Sounders. That might be a little bit of a sign because just 2 minutes later, Oba Vargas would score from Rodon to make it 2-0 in favor of the Sounders. It took a deflection and goes in. And then it was 3-0 when Jesus Ferreira once again put the ball into the back net. Problem was, same thing happened in the first half. The goal was disallowed for on the development of play, but as the old saying goes, if you don't succeed, try again. And then the third time, Fiera finally got his goal in the 58th minute as he scored here from Rodon. It also came off of a corner as well. So two corner set piece goal for the Seattle Sounders in this one. That is something you just don't see every day. And up to this point, it was 3-0, and I'm just thinking, yeah, the route is absolutely on. I mean, Seattle, they are feeling it. When they're a team that is able to score goals from the corner, from the set piece, and then they also get a deflection goal, you know things are definitely smiling on the Seattle Sounders tonight, and you know they're not going to let off because Cruz Azul, I don't know what happened at halftime. I mean, it feels like they might as well just not even show up in the second half or leave the stadium and forfeit the game, and it would have been better in terms of what we witnessed in the second half because in the 69th minute, here Rosario would make it 4-0 as he score from Kent to make it 4-0 in this one. 9 minutes later, it would be 5-0. Actually, not 9 minutes later, but 7 minutes later to be exact. It would be 5-0 in favor of the Sounders as De La Vega would score from Fiera to make it 5-0 up to this point and match the score line that we saw about a month and a half ago when Cruz Azul was able to beat Vancouver with that same scoreline. They scored 4 goals in the first half as well. Minor then deny Ferreira from close range. There was no mercy that is shown for the Sounders. They're ignoring Cruz Azul, who clearly waved the white flag. They want more goals in this one. And like I said, it feels like everything was going right for the Sounders when Nuhu gets on the score sheet. So here you have a team that don't score a lot of goals on set pieces, especially from the corner, able to do so. They score a deflection goal as well. And now you add a guy that, when Nuhu gets on the score sheet, there's going to be good things that's going to happen to the Seattle Sounders. And when that goal goes in, it was 6-0 in favor of the Seattle Sounders. And it would be 7-0 just a couple of minutes later because Pedro de la Vega, he's not done. I mean, again, like I said before, it's got to be the hair. It has to be the hair that is the reason why de la Vega is performing so much better. I mean, ever since he cut his hair, he looks night and day like a different player that is. And here he's scoring an absolute banger here. This is a goal that Pedro de la Vega would not have scored if he still had his long hair there. But he scored here to make it 7-0 from Alex Rodon. And what a way to cap off a historic beatdown that we saw in this one with an absolute banger from Pedro de la Vega. As in the end, final score of this game 7-0 in favor of the Seattle Sounders. This is the most lopsided scoreline that an MLS team has put against a Liga MX side, and the heaviest defeat that a Liga MX side has lost in MLS before. And for the Seattle Sounders, this is also the biggest beatdown that they handed a team, I think, in club history as well. I know they scored 7 goals once. I think it was against the San Jose Earthquakes. I remember that because I watched that game and I remember how depressing that was in the Quakes fans' perspective, especially with the way that they were down 5-0 inside 33 minutes in that game. That game ended 7-1, but I think this is the first time the Seattle Sounders have ever had a 7-0 shutout against their opposition. And the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 9 that Cruz Azul has, 2 shots on goal for the 10 that Seattle has, 2 shots off target for the 4 that Cruz Azul has, 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Sounders had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Cruz Azul has in this one. And I'm gonna just also say this: Cruz Azul is done. Like I don't think they're gonna come back from this. I mean, I know that there is still a possibility that they can get 6 points, especially with the way that Liga MX team is dropping like flies, except for the opening night. But considering the fact that, I mean, how do you recover from a 7-0 beatdown that they suffer? This is truly embarrassment in the highest level. And I know some people will say, well, only Cruz Azul can do that kind of thing. They have that kind of choker kind of label next to them. But I mean, this is not just a choke. This is just simply the flat out humiliation that we saw in the second half, and especially with the way the goal difference also played very big in this tournament. Especially when you only have 4 teams that make it out of the 18, goal difference now plays a huge part. And this is not a big surprise why Seattle didn't stop. They want to make sure the goal differential is very well. They already saw some teams that able to win big against Liga MX side. So if they want to be the one that is at the very top of the standing, they need to one. So in many ways, I mean, I know some people will say that the Sounders were kind of running up the score, but considering the fact that when you only have 4 teams make it and goal difference can be really huge at the end of all of this, I mean, yeah, the Sounders are sitting in a very comfortable spot in a way where they can win these next couple of games, maybe even get away with just getting a point out of these remaining 2 games. They're going to be able to move on into the next round because of how good their goal difference true is that they're going to be sitting in a very comfortable spot. Whereas for Cruz Azul, it's the opposite. I mean, even if they get 6 points because of how bad their goal differential right now at -7, I mean, it's almost a horror for them to overcome this both mentally and physically after this historic beatdown that we saw in this game between the Sounders and Cruz Azul. By the way, I'm also now going to look at the other resort as well. So it turns out that as I look on the MLS website. Uh, NYCFC did hold on to win 2-0 against Leon, so this is another MLS team able to do well against a Liga MX opponent. By the way, the game between Columbus and Puebla, that's already into like the 60th minute. I ran a little long when it comes to doing this review. I did this right at halftime, and because it's running a little long, it's already kind of in the 60th minute. But so far, it's still 3-1 in favor of Columbus. The game between the Dynamo and Mazatlan just started. Yesterday resort, we saw the Galaxy winning 5-2 against Tijuana. By the way, that Gilberto Mora guy, the guy that I talked about, that is a young phenom out of Mexico. He's for the brace in that game. So just to show you that his demand is definitely really high right now. But the Galaxy, that was probably the best attacking display they've shown all season. It turns out that so far when you don't look at how they perform in league play, they actually have been pretty respectable when it comes to performing not in league play. So in some way, they're probably happy the fact that they want to keep playing in this competition, and especially they're taking this competition seriously. Consider when you are a team that having a historic bad season, this is a great opportunity to try to salvage something, and that's is kind of the thing I think Greg Vanny are telling his guys, that just make sure you take this competition really seriously because this is a way to really salvage what has been a forgettable season so far this year in league play. The other resort, we saw Colorado winning 2-1 against Santos Laguna, and the only team that did not win from yesterday's action was Charlotte FC. And yeah, we talk about a surprise with this 7-0 beatdown. The Charlotte Juarez game was even a bigger surprise. I mean, Juarez is not known to be a full team, but they put up a 4 spot against Charlotte. They won 4-1 against Charlotte FC. That is definitely one that I didn't saw coming, especially with the way that it feels like Charlotte had figured it out heading into this Leeds Cup. They were on a 4-game winning streak. It looks like it was probably going to be an easy win for them, and it couldn't be the complete opposite. I mean, they just did not showed up in that game against Juarez. Maybe took Juarez a little bit too light, and yeah, Juarez absolutely put on a show in that one. One of the rare time where a Liga MX team is able to get the better over the MLS team, at least in these last days action. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for my review of the selective game tonight. When it comes to the selective game, I'm not gonna review the early game. I'll probably review the late game that is, and then tomorrow we'll basically do the same thing in terms of reviewing some of the selective game. And I know some people don't like the fact that I only review some of these selective game, but like I said before, it's going to be absolutely overwhelming for me to do every single game. And I think once we get into the knockout stage, which it's a very short knockout stage, it's only going to be the free rounds if you include the final. That is when that probably will definitely be doing every single game in terms of review. Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I only do selective game, only talk about some of these marquee kind of matchup, and in some cases these marquee matchup turns out to be a historic beatdown, like what we saw in this game between Cruz Azul and Seattle. But there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.